back at Benchmark for another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. You know, it's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Just off top, shout out to Akepele Apparel for their continued support of the Klyph Notes podcast. If you haven't checked them out yet, check them out at akepele.com. That's akepele.com. It's dope for me to be back in this space, and because this is the third or fourth time that I've been here, and every time I come through, it's a little bit different, which is what it's supposed to be, right? Because it's really a gallery and a place to show off people's wares, which is really cool. But have an opportunity this time to chop it up with one of the owners of Benchmark, a cat who it's crazy, who I've crossed paths with a number of times through the years, and excited to just really get to have this conversation and get to know you better. We got Robbo live on the Klyph Notes podcast. What up, man?
What up, man?
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you, Saya.
Come on, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to chop it up, bro.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So like I said, definitely crossed paths a number of times, and seeing you do the things that you do with RootsNRooftops.
Correct.
I just kind of want to start with that, bro, because that was my first opportunity to see you and what you do, man. Can you just give me a little bit of backstory on the brand? Like what was the genesis of creating your own brand?
Really focused on domestic production.
Mm-hmm.
So I retired from Adidas. I really was locked into how to build sustainable product,
mm-hmm.
But still create new product, but have a sustainable current through it.
Yeah.
And just coming out of these big corporations, I found that the smaller you are and the more focused you are on that, you have a lot more control. So the key word was control.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to build that out, but do it through a domestic channels.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a couple years really to understand how to produce product in LA, how to get supplies, materials, so forth that are domestic as well,
mm-hmm.
and then also learning the landscape, the production landscape here in Portland, Oregon. You have so many incredible and talented crafters and suppliers here.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to learn and create a system on how to work with all the different suppliers and local production houses from LA to Portland, and just domestically have a domestic system of making product. From t-shirts to full-on cut and sew.
Yeah.
So that was the whole idea of RootsNRooftops, from the bottom to the top. And I really focused, did some apparel, but I really started leaning more into mid-sized bags that you would use every day, because I can produce them right here in Portland, but also get my supplies domestically. The only thing that I get that's not domestic would be our zippers, which are metal zippers from Italy. So really focused on making mid-size everyday bags with no plastic, and just making the best material and using the best materials, from new materials that have a sustainable feel to them, but also using dead stock material, which is fabrics that once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
So you're just not letting these fabrics sit in storage.
Yeah.
You're actually using them, and then you can focus on the material as far as what makes that fabric, the makeup, and if that's right for me or for my business, is there a sustainable part or side to that? So really just trying to create a business focused around making the best product that is locally made, domestically made, and just building it from there.
Wow, dude, so many different directions to go in. So like the first thing that catches my thought is, you talk about using like dead stock fabrics. then that means you have an opportunity to really create a unique number of items. Because like you said, when that material's gone, like that's it.
Yeah.
Was that initially a part of the process when you were thinking about building these items that were sustainable, that were local, essentially locally sourced, or was that sort of this is this is another piece I didn't even necessarily think about?
Yeah, that was definitely part of the makeup of the business, especially going into apparel. But as going into the bags, you don't need that much material.
Right.
So it was really just trying to figure out, like, okay, this one style of bag that's this size, how much material do you need to make that bag? And then that's when I started to figure out, like, okay, I can do, and especially in production, doing production domestically, that's the great thing, is you can actually do small quantities. You don't have to do a large amount of quantity to make an item. So now I could take the fact that I could do small quantities. If I just want to do 20, to 30 bags, I know how much fabric I need, and then I can determine how much, if I want to go into dead stock fabric, how much do I need of that. And then now I can play into, that's something I'm going to do going into the summer, playing into, like, okay, I only have, there's only 30 of these bags made. And once they're gone, they're gone. Right. And now that kind of goes into, like, you're buying something special and makes that individual feel special when they buy the bags. So that's not for everything, for all the items, but that's, now I know I can play in that realm. And also bring in my personal love, which is indigo dyeing. So now I can dye fabrics and then use those fabrics into other items. So I'm actually customizing my textiles.
So can you share with me, just coming from a place of ignorance, when you speak of indigo dyeing, what is it, and why you take to it? Like, what makes it unique?
So I got into indigo dyeing when I moved here to Portland. It's funny enough, I've been around it. Like, I was born in Philly, Jersey City, New York, and just being around those cities and seeing African vendors, you would actually see indigo dyed mud cloth. But you saw it so much, it was just part of the landscape. It didn't really, like, draw your attention. But me being in the industry, I got more into indigo from going to wash houses in Asia. And from there, that's how I started learning, like, the most premium denim or indigo denim that you can get is in Japan, and then how those are weaved and so forth. So that's been my relationship with indigo. But then when I came to Portland, I actually started to learn how to actually dye and use indigo, and got more into the history of it, but more from the Japanese point of view, and that history of it. But the more I dug in, the more I actually learned the process and how to use indigo. It's a natural dye. The hardest color to get in nature is blue. And learning things like indigo is actually like living. It needs air to oxidize and turn into the blue. And then actually how you keep the vats and so forth. So it's almost like a living thing that you have to take care of. So just really got into it, and then the more I got into how to use it and then where it comes from, I started to find out there's a link to Africa, different countries in Africa. I focus more on Nigeria. There's different indigo dye houses that have been around forever in Nigeria, as there's towns in Japan that are just that their whole makeup is based around indigo dyeing. Indigo houses, and it's such a tradition. It goes back centuries, and each culture looks at indigo in different ways, where in Japan it's all about the type of fabric you dye. If it's silk that you dye, and indigo is all about natural fibers. That's the other great thing about it. So silk, natural fibers, that's a higher end versus if you just do like a regular cotton,
right,
which you see in ball stitching, more for farmers and so forth, and people that work with their hands. Where in Africa or in Nigeria, it depends on the region, celebration, and just like how indigo flows and works and control or is seen in each different society is pretty amazing to me. And like in Africa, it depends on, it's not just like everyone in every country uses indigo in the same way. In one country, it might even depend on that region. Right. And this country uses or works with indigo differently than this country. And then even like the plant in the soil, it might be a different type of that indigo plant that grows in that country, because that country has a certain type of soil that's different from another land. That might be, like in the mountains or something like that. So like all those things vary with the plant. And then the process itself, one thing I learned, it's funny, I learned this from an African brand, and they said that indigo is part of that whole instead of fast fashion is slow fashion, because you have to take your time using indigo. You have to be prepared. You have to have everything in front of you. You have to know exactly what you're doing. It's not just like a regular color dye. So so with that theory, you have to slow up. You have to know what type of fabrics that you're using. If it's a heavy natural fabric versus a light heavy or light fabric, that depends on your type of where the process goes when you dye it. And then it's also, it's part of where you're getting your indigo. How does that affect the individual that's selling your indigo? And then, from slow fashion, it goes into like how it's put together and everything. So you have to slow up and think about the process and who you're working with to further that process along. So indigo falls into that whole slow fashion and being considerate and well thought out styles and how you use it and so forth. So all those things just like really drew me into the culture of indigo dyeing, and it just really reflects RootsNRooftops and just the type of designer that I am.
It's funny because as you describe that process, you can see where it is such a direct link to what you talk about in terms of the materials that you're using and the products that you're creating, which I think is really dope. Let's go back just a little bit further. So your start when it comes to being a creative, working on design, like where does all that come from? And like from Philly, bro, how you got here to the Northwest?
Well, I mean, I've been drawing since I was a kid. Started out doing like illustrations, and then I went to art school in Philly. University of Arts, it's another art school called Hushin that's no longer there, where I switched more into graphics. And while I was in school, I was hustling on the street, as far as like selling my t-shirts. I was working with a crew that we were doing hand painted t-shirts. Then we'd take those up to New York and sell them like right on Broadway in New York or outside clubs. When people come out, we'll have these like when the house scene was really strong. You're talking like late 80s, early 90s. We'd have these like house music designs hand painted on the shirts, one of a kind. So funny enough, like I actually started out in apparel doing one-offs. Crazy how life works.
Right.
So from there, that led to me working with different rap groups, and from different rap groups, it led me to working in the record industry, as far as just doing, did some record covers, and did some like flyers for parties, stickers, like all those little things, and some outwardly facing things within the industry while I was still in school. So I'm in school, but I'm also getting real world experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So from there, that kind of, by accident, I fell into the fashion industry, more in streetwear. I was working with Echo Unlimited, based off something I did in the record industry.
Okay.
So then that led me down the path of clothing. Then I started working in the fashion industry in New York, working in the garment district. And from there is where I got recruited to work at Nike.
Okay.
So there's like a crew of us, like 3-4 of us, that came from New York. They came here to Portland, and we started a department at Nike to kind of help bridge apparel to connect to footwear. So we were blessed because not only we were still working in apparel, but now we're working directly with the footwear department to make like small collections of capsules. So that's where I started to get more involved in the footwear process, in understanding footwear designers. And a lot of footwear designers come from an engineering background, you know, and really learning the materials, and the difference of the thought process of picking materials for footwear versus apparel. Even though you might have apparel that's athletic, you're constantly moving in footwear. Yeah. So the materials and the way they use them and where they place them and all those things, like really, like I've always been more inspired by my peers. Yeah. So to meet my peers that work in a whole different part of fashion was really uplifting for me. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so from there, I just like, everything just broadened out. You know, I was very much focused on graphics at the time. So everything was about what goes on an existing garment. But now I get experience where I'm learning fashion and how to style or how to look at a customer and build something for a customer from the bottom up. Yeah, yeah. You know, how does this, whatever goes on this jacket, work with what's happening down here in footwear? Yeah. Yeah, and that just again, like, just uplifted me to really broaden my horizons as far as fashion. Yeah. So when you think about those experiences that you had working in that industry, are there pieces that you feel like you glean from for what you're doing now with Roots and Rooftops? You know, things that you picked up along the way that are valuable in you now creating your own brand? Yes. I mean, for me, it just goes back to looking at what people are already wearing, what are already gravitating towards, and then how I can design something that complements that. And that's where the bag designs come into play, where it's not just about like this look of this bag, but then how does that flow with where everyone's at right now? Yeah. And I think that was one of the key things of like understanding where people are at, and you want to bring something fresh and new to that, but you always want to meet the people where they're at. Yeah, yeah. As I look over at the display and see some of your creations here that you have here at Benchmark, it's really cool to see. You talked about the garments that you do, the shirts, and then we get to see some of the bags that you have on display. And leaning into more of that coming up in terms of creating more bags. Right. And you kind of answered one of the questions that I have for you is so now as you're thinking about what you're about to release, that creative process, you know, is that something that you've had in mind? Like, I know at some point I want to do this, or is it literally just sort of
sitting back and watching and seeing what's happening?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's really it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one of the exciting things for me is really like I'm almost designing off the fabrics, not just designing off style.
Okay.
So the next collection that comes out, it's going to be more based around like a Japanese fabric that I found that's a dead stock.
Okay.
That's very unique for me, and it really it's a durable fabric. And I would say where it comes into meeting people where they're at. Now I look at the color. So kind of looking more like your earth tones, but then at the same time like how to make it pop off what someone else might be wearing that's already earth tones. Right. You know, so it's like again like that mixture of both, where you're trying to I want someone to feel like they can put on and wear one of my bags every day. Right. That's it's not just like when you travel. So you have to think about like what's that person going to wear every day, and how does this bag complement that? And that goes, like I said, goes back into the fabrics and even just the colors that I use. Yeah. So yeah, it all comes into play.
So the fact that you are right now in the creative process and can create items the way that you create them, do you have, is there a sense of, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I sketch out, this is what I put together, that is exactly what I envisioned, because you can physically put it together? Or is it, this is what I envisioned, this is what I have, and they don't match, not good or bad, but it's different from my original vision?
I don't know if this answers the question, but I think it starts with purpose. Okay. Like, what's the purpose of the item? And this is actually probably the first time that I dove into designing something that, for me, that reminds me of footwear. Okay. Because you always got to think about how the footwear is performing. What is the individual going to use this footwear for? Right. And it's almost the same thing with designing these bags. And that's why I anchored in every day. So if I'm looking at this style or the purpose of this bag, and it's going to be used for every day, then that determines like the look and so forth. And I actually work with a production house here. So that's, again, another great thing of being a small brand. Instead of it being like, hey, I want to make this, make that, and give me a sample or whatever, I actually work with them. They help me to refine the thing. And that helps me get to a point of like, okay, this is where I want to be. Or this is where I want to be right now with that line, or with that item. And then when I do B version, now I can upscale it up. But everything always has that language. And I think that's one with my new bag, the 430 HP. That's a really great style. I actually designed that bag off of the Nintendo Switch.
I saw that saw that sort of marketing went together.
Right. And then that's the first time I've designed something like that as well. But that's the main purpose of it. But then it has all these other uses for your everyday use. So I really want to take that style and now just like kind of just improve it every time, and use that as a language. But that just like that came off of purpose, and the purpose that was for people's Nintendo Switch or any portable game system you might use. You know, so it has padding, it's water resistant, all those things. But now you can use anything else.
No doubt, because you think about cameras, you think about cell phones, you think about like any of those items that you want those pieces. It's a perfect fit.
And then you go into camera bags, you know, there's purpose for them and the lenses and whatnot. But then also, how can you use that if you need to use it or want to use it whenever you want to? So then that's the next step. Like, I would love to do some bags with a cycling system. So what do cyclists need?
Yeah.
And I had some of those conversations already and that's great as well, because you're talking to people that do the thing, and they're letting you know, like, we don't like this or we don't like that because it affects our performance.
Right.
And so now I have to design something that I make sure I have those in mind, that those are the negatives, these are the positives, but then can I take that and now bring that into like a lifestyle?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the process.
How dope is that? So I didn't ask the name of the company, RootsNRooftops. What's the story behind the name of the company?
It's really from the bottom to the top. Just really thinking about what I'm making, how I'm making it, what I'm using to make it, and just controlling all that as I build to the final piece. So, coming from the East Coast, it really was a thing of with rooftops as, you're, on the ground, you're in it, all these things are hitting your senses, this is going on, that's going on. But when you want to take a break, you go to the rooftop. You're still part of the culture, you're still in the neighborhood, but you're in a place where you're elevated. You can get away from the noise. You can think about your dreams, and just really think about where you want to go in the next part of your life.
Yeah.
So like that always that means something to me. And that was a big part of the name. That's where it comes from, someplace that's authentic to me as a creative and where I come from. And then from there went into like how I build product.
Yeah. The opportunity now to have this be another part of the creative process, to have a place that you can have the items, your creations here available, where people can literally walk in the door and put their hands on it and feel the material and look at it, or go on to the website and see it there. But then to also be in this space, and we talked about this a little bit on the previous episode of the Klyph Notes podcast, in terms of what Benchmark is, has that been something that you have even had an opportunity yet? Because Benchmark ain't that old yet. Y'all ain't been open that long.
No,
have you had an opportunity to, does that resonate with you, the fact that, like, people can come in and put their hands on the stuff? It's not just something that, it's not just something that's going to be at a pop-up. It's not just something that's going to be online. It's here, any day of the week that we're open, people can come. Like, does that resonate with you yet, or is it still?
Yeah, 100%. 100 from the gate. It was a big part of us building out Benchmark and knowing that this will be my home. That I've created, is the home that I created. So it has even with the new product we're doing for summer. I'm now thinking of like, how does that? It's not just the story. It's just not like here's the new items for the season, but then how does it look? How does it merchandise in the store? How does it work with all like the hand indigo dyed T-shirts that I do? How does that tell the story, and does that work together? So yeah, definitely having the space available, and I know I can change it and tell whatever story I want is like, it's huge. And that's where the next stage for RootsNRooftops is to make that link to Benchmark, knowing that you can physically come in here and see the product, but then also visually knowing that I can tell the story and tell a full merchandising story without it being pieced together in a studio. I could actually do it in a real time, in a real retail space or setting, to speak into that collection or capsule or what's happening at that moment with Roots and Rooftops. So yeah, it's from the door, from the gate, it's always been a way to another channel to tell my story.
Yeah. Did you, through your process, did you envision or have a desire to have like essentially a brick and mortar spot?
No.
Yeah.
No. We initially started this just we did the pop-up shops with the Numberz and the Portland Art Museum, and that really changed our look on how to present product. So the word curate just really rang loud in our ears. So me and Ben, my partner in Benchmark, we did the pop-up. So me, Ben, and Ian, we came together and we're about how do you curate a open market space. You know, having X amount of retailers, they're trying to have 100 retailers and 10 of them are doing the exact same thing.
Right.
You know, like how do you curate that space, that moment in time, and then focusing on the vendors instead of focusing on how many people you get through the door. If you focus on the vendors and making sure what they have to tell their story, everything else will come. So it came out of that. And then when we started researching on how to create that market, financially it just seemed a hassle to have something that's just going to be up for a certain amount of time, and you're trying to tell a story, introduce new brands or new ways of thinking. It takes time. So that's when we just decided to let's focus on something solid that we can tell our story and inject ourselves into Portland authentically, but then also bring something fresh. And the only way we felt like we can do it was just through a solid brick and mortar.
It's funny, not funny. It's really cool for me though to see what you guys have created, because you have created a space for you to share your business with people.
Correct.
But you've also created a space where others can come in and share their vision, their business, their desires, their art. I mean, this is really an art. As much as it is a retail space, it's an art space, which is, you know, I really hope that people understand to come through this space. There's so much here to take in, and that I don't know that that's always something that we get to see, you know what I mean? And it's not a negative, you know, if I'm trying to make my way, I'm focused on making my way. But you folk have added this other layer to it in creating space for others and getting again a physical place where people can come and put their hands on art that's created, not just online, for people who are in the city, like in this same geographical area, but yet sometimes we seem so far apart. And I guess what I'm saying is you know, just big ups to you guys for seeing the need for something like that, and then having the vision for it, and then making it a reality. I think that should be celebrated.
Thank you.
As you have done it, like I said, you know, y'all ain't been open that long, but as you have done it thus far, what sort of feedback have you gotten from the community?
You know what, like it's all been like really positive. Like it's been really like we're hitting those points that we want to hit. You know, we want people to come in. We want you to feel like you're being hugged by summer. We want, you know, your senses of smell is already like got you to the point of like, this is a safe place, relax. You know, Ben built out the whole space, and it just feels welcoming, airy. At the same time, it really feels authentic to Portland, but it does feel new. And to hear people say that, like this, it smells so good in here, or it just feels so good in here, or I mean, one gentleman said that, not to be negative, but like Portland doesn't deserve a store like this, you know, and that was really surprising for us to hear. One, it's like, wow, like we've done something that's just like is blowing people's minds to the point of like, we don't deserve you, you know. But at the same time, it's like you do deserve this.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we come from different cities that has something like this. Even if it's just like a cafe or a magazine shop or a store, some place where creatives can meet and build and engage on a heavy way, a light way. You know, in passing, whatever. But it's that place, you know. That place you go. There's places where I used to go on lunch break. Like, yo, I'm heading downtown to go to the store and I'm gonna get inspired, you know. So it's like a hub, inspiration, engagement, you know, supporting each other. And we feel like, no, Portland does deserve it, and we want to be the ones to give it to Portland in the right way. So just knowing that people are just really appreciative of the space. One gentleman also said that this is healing, you know, because, you know, when you're in the corporate creative and you're doing the rat race and you're making designs that are designed by committee, you know, there's frustrations there from an artist's point of view, a creative point of view. So to know they can come to a space and just kind of, if it's for half an hour, just to like break from that, you know. Even, you know, we offered the space up for if you want to do events, workshops like that, and, you know, having a couple of workshops in here and having people say like, this is a new way to do it and to talk to a team or go over something, and you're not in a cafe or empty boardroom, or you're in a place where everywhere you look there's something that's inspiring or fresh or new, and that helps to take the conversation someplace else. You know, and to hear people say those things is letting us know, like, okay, no matter what, like we're hitting our mission statement, and people are seeing it, and we understand sometimes it's baby steps, which is fine, because that's how, you know, you make mistakes small, and as you get bigger, you know the direction that you're going. So you know, we've been prepared to like do the baby steps, to know you have to take your time to bring people in, but to knowing that this stage that like we're doing what's needed, and people are recognizing that, is just fulfilling.
That's what's up, bro. So you've mentioned that the next piece from RootsNRooftops is coming. When? I guess, you know, it's the question you always got to ask the creative. Like, all right, so when is it dropping?
So I have some limited edition bags, a new like indigo. Again, this kind of goes back to now I can do something by hand. Like the bags I have now are fabrications that I've gotten, you know, mass production. I can get them easily, but now I'm going to introduce like some of the things I can do by hand. And it's just a different way of how there's a technique I learned how to sew, where it has like it feels like patches, but it's really tough and strong, especially with the fabrics I'm using. So I'm going to bring that in this summer. So that'll be a limited quantity, but that's something that's been a mixture of mass production, but also items that are like handmade, that are sustainable, that come from even comes from bags that I did earlier. There's a fabrics left over, so now I can take fabrics that I customized from an earlier project and upscale them into a new one.
Okay.
So that's this technique, and then this summer I have that story I'm telling with the Japanese fabric.
Yeah.
It's right now, the name is Samurai Camo.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'm going to stick with that one.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be respectful in telling that story, but it's kind of really based off of Afro Samurai, and it kind of like it's traditional but futuristic at the same time. So it's not it's inspired by that. It's not directly telling that story of that show.
Right.
But it's trying to like that mixture of it's traditional, but it's futuristic at the same time.
Okay.
You know? So I'm playing off of that. So those are the two things that are coming this spring.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. So obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. Well, yeah, obviously we have the physical space. And so if people are in the city or if they're coming to the city, definitely want to encourage people to come through because it is such a beautiful space and there's so much to see in this space, not just with what you're creating and what Ben is creating, but other creatives who have product here in the building. We have, there's art on the wall from art installations that you guys are doing here. There's so much to see and take in. But if people are not in the region, there are other ways that people can connect with you guys. So there's social media.
Correct. Social. We're building out our web store now, so that'll be up. So those are like the two main ways out of Portland that you can reach out to us. If it's looking at the type of goods that we carry here. One thing about every item, every creative, every brand that we carry here is based off of Portland design theory, which is well-made, timeless, with a current of sustainability. So, we have brands from around the world that carry that DNA. So we have local brands, but then we have brands from Argentina, Ghana. We have creators from Brooklyn, Newark, New Jersey, Oakland. So our whole thing is like when you come into our space, when you look at the product lines that's online, you know they're well made. You know the quality is there, and you know the freshness is there, and you know you're supporting a woman-owned business, a business owned by a person of color, and you know the business is something that is up and coming. You know, it's not just you see it every day. So those are the things that we look for. Those are the type of creatives and brands that we want to connect ourselves to, from publications to apparel to housewares.
No doubt. Talk to me a little bit. You mentioned that you said when people come in, they say just, it smells so good in here. Like you guys created a whole scent.
Yeah, we worked with Mr. OK. It's actually her scent, but she's letting us like be the first ones to use it.
Got you.
So we did create our own scent, but this one, like, we voted in that one. This one scent that she made, and she's letting us rock with it until she does a full release on it. But that's our main scent here in the store. So yeah, again, like we're just working with local creatives to just create our own vibe here in the space. That's something that's phenomenal.
How dope is that, bro? So the social tag, if people want to hit you on social, is what?
Benchmark PDX.com. That's our website, and then more or less same thing for IG, Benchmark PDX.
There it is. So I'm gonna get this up. Pretty quickly so that things are timely in terms of the release of the new product the new bags from RootsNRooftops. This summer, anything that you have on deck that you can announce right now, or because I know that there's always stuff that's like in the works.
We're gonna work with one of our vendors to do a special event here. They clean shoes. So we're gonna do like this really special, like come and clean, have your RSVP, come and have your shoes cleaned.
Okay.
And while you wait, there'll be other things happening.
Yeah.
Like a service.
Yeah.
But again, but curated, not just like a table and someone's cleaning your shoes like off the block or something.
Right.
We have a collaboration show coming up with 3 different artists that are from Portland, but from different cultures and demographics and different styles. So we're doing a collaborated project with them called Kinship. And we have a couple of things lined up, a couple of artists that aren't from Portland that we want to introduce to Portland.
Dope.
And then we have, as the summer comes in, we're just going to be having more big and small events happening here. And we're definitely looking to have more things outside of the space as well as inside. So I would say just everything, we opened up in November, and everything from November to now has been aimed towards revving up for the summer.
Okay.
So we have a lot of great things coming in this summer, from new brands, fresh new looks from our current vendors, and new events and new art exhibits.
That's what's up.
So check in on us every month. We got something popping.
There it is. Well, listen, bro, once again, man, I just feel blessed to be in, you guys' circle of influence. It's so cool to be in this space, and just very appreciative of you taking time to
Thank you.
To tell part of the story. There's so much more I know to it, so we may have to come back and do it again.
Please.
My dude, Robbo, come on, man, check them out. It is Benchmark PDX all over the nets. Benchmark PDX on IG, and then for sure check out the website. So when the store is up, you can definitely cop some stuff if you're not in the area. If you're in the area, you definitely want to come through right here on Lovejoy and 23rd.
Yeah.
Lovejoy.
Right off 23rd, Lovejoy.
Yeah, man.
Love that name, Lovejoy.
Exactly. All right, y'all, man. That's another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. Once again, be sure to check it out wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at klyphnotes.com. Again, big ups to Akepele Apparel for their continued support of the Klyph Notes podcast. And last but never ever least, big ups to the homie Theory Hazit for creating the official theme song for the Klyph Notes podcast. Until next time, y'all be blessed.
Salute.
Peace. My dude.
My dude.